Hello and welcome to the dungeon. Dayman here. Today we're going over our rogue slash gunner build. As was suggested by someone in the comments, and so I got on it as soon as I could. It's a relatively small community, so your voices will be heard. This class guide is going to be looking over how to play a rogue. When you think of a rogue, a few things come to mind. They are quick and nimble on their feet. Am I hitting some lag spike? Let's hope that lag spike levels out so I can be as quick and nimble as I need to be this rogue. The other thing is they're in it for the gold. That's right. Your role in the dungeon is going to be able to make sure that everyone is getting a higher cut of the gold, but mostly you. Am I right? The next thing about a rogue is they are stealthy. They stay out of the fight, and they deal incredible damage with what attacks are available to them. So, here we got our cool rogue, ready to show you what he's got in store. This is somewhat of a drow-esque build. So, looking here at our exosuit first, you're going to see that I'm running the mental perk Fortune. This will increase the amount of gold that is rewarded at the end of the game. Right? We're in it for the gold. Now, there are a few options for your chest perk, though passive regen is going to help you run through those dungeons without worrying about hazards and run through those dungeons without having to worry about taking too many glancing blows, as your goal is to pick up all that is available to us. A few notable things are, if you want to go more D&D-esque rogue, you can go for evasion for your blast perk, reducing bomb barrels from taking you out while you are running through and collecting things as fast as you can. The chest perk is cool for potions, as you can carry up to 4 potions. However, until the devs address the lackluster ability here, 4 potions is barely different than 3 potions, if we're being honest. If we end up being able to carry double potions, like 6 potions or even 5 potions, it might be worth your time. Until then, we are looking at the ability to either reduce damage or gain that passive health. Other things you can consider are things that stop you from being slowed down as much, but meh. For our legs perk, haste, haste, haste. Now, there is an edge case for Juggernaut, and we'll talk about that. But if you're playing Rogue, you're running haste. If you're playing Gunner, we're going to be using our shield. Increasing our movement speed by 50% is going to allow you to run through those dungeons as fast as you can, collecting everything, the little loot goblin in your mind desires. Right? We're here to be the loot goblin we've always been meant to be. For your arms perk, you really have 3 options here. The 3 options I recommend are Might, the ability to get more damage out of your thrown weapons, which are going to be most featured by your daggers. However, if you are running a crossbow as your primary weapon, then you're going to be looking at pullback to increase your damage by 50%, or your criticals. Now, anytime you're running an impale, which is not as powerful as melee criticals, but with the multi-shot ability of a crossbow, it's your DPS is going to go out. It's going to go crazy. They both have the same chance, however. And if you're interested in how you can calculate your DPS, I have an exo and weapon perk deep dive video that actually gives you an equation that you can calculate what your weapons really do. So, Impale, Pullback, and Might are our primary arms perks. And Fortune is not just thematic, but it's your role as a rogue. In Dungeons of Eternity, Rogue, your job is to make sure you're picking up all the gold to ensure that your party is getting the most at the end. Here's the thing. When it comes to your crossbows must be reload ability It doesn't matter if it's 6 shots, 7 shots, or 8 shots. You will hardly notice a difference between them. However, the 3 types of damages you are looking for your crossbow are either going to be criticals, in which you are going to pair that with your Impale Exo, or your poison. The poison 8-shot is going to be excellent at being able to heal over opponents and allowing you to keep that distance, as we talked about in my tank build. However, what's better about this than a melee option is your bolt will glow, indicating to you that it is ready to be activated. This is true for fire, true for ice, and for poison, as well as for criticals. Now we're going to shoot over my critical bow here. And here is a very important tip for you when it comes to the way in which you can determine the value of your bolts. As we know, a glowing bolt indicates that it is going to operate as a critical if you have a critical hit bow. It grows that reddish pink. Other bolts will not. However, that is only true for the weapon perk. The weapon perk glows pink, but I'm going to turn on my Impale and then put on a crossbow with multi-shot, but has no other further features. And you're going to notice something. It is statistically unlikely for none of these to have a glowing crossbow to indicate damage. That is because your Exo perk checks damage on contact. Only the weapon perk will indicate to you that you're getting a critical hit. So just because a bolt is not glowing does not mean your Impale critical is not being triggered. So you can end up getting more of those critical shots off on a critical hit crossbow with Impale, and it will not be as indicated, as Exos are factored on contact, but only the weapon perk will alert you of its... Ooh, that's how it opens. Woo, boy. Look at all those crits. So, fire is the highest damaging element, granting 200% damage on a hit. And remember, you can shoot the floor with a firebolt and use that as a means of clearing out people coming close to you. So if you're wanting to do a build like this, I'm going to keep this bolt, keep it on my back, run through the dungeons. If I get surrounded, boom, I'm going to shoot the floor, clear out people, boom, knock them to the floor, and then clean up house, right? So you can keep bolts loaded for elements in order to be sure that you're ready for a fight. Now, another thing about being ready for a fight, especially if you're wanting to get the most out of a critical hit crossbow, what you're going to do before you enter into the new room, if you're not using those advantageous elements, is to make sure you have all 8 shots before entering a room. Now, I recommend keeping your crossbow in your offhand so that you are ready and able to throw a dagger. Let's talk about those daggers now. I recommend using your right loadout dagger for your mobs and your left loadout dagger for your bosses. So if you're not running a mythical dagger, this would be my general setup here. Like I said, you might find some crossover with the information in my videos because it's all about optimization, and there are just better choices. Poison's great, but for this one, we are going to be talking about the pseudo gunner / rogue build with DPS. So I'm going to be running 8-shot criticals. All right. My main hand is going to be dealing with mobs. This is going to be the primary hand I'm using my throws with. This one is rocking ice, poison, and elemental damage, and this one is rocking fire, vampires, and criticals. Now, what's so important about having a dagger of high damage output against bosses is that daggers will auto-target the ideal hitboxes of an enemy. For skeletal bosses, that's the face. Unfortunately, doomers will auto-target the belly. That's where you bring in your crossbow. Vampire and criticals is there to keep you up, and fire is there to keep enemies at bay and deal massive damage. Ice and poison are there to keep mobs at bay, and elemental damage is just helping that damage stay consistent. Of the creature type damages, elemental will at least allow you to hit all creature types of an elemental variety at the very least, as all creature types come in an elemental variety, denoted by their various colors being orange for fire, blue for ice, and green for poison. So here you can see that my ice and poison, as well as my fire, are not always going to trigger against those, but my elemental dagger is going to help me deal more damage against those types of mobs who are of the elemental variety. So this is keeping my damage consistent. Now, these daggers are my daggers. Your daggers are going to be different, but I'm telling you what I'm looking for in a dagger, right? I'm trying to get consistent damage, and that is what, and whatever weapons you have, you can look into. And it's going to take time to find these weapons. But thankfully, we have an armorer. I didn't find this crossbow. I purchased this crossbow from the armorer. So whenever his inventory reloads, go down there and check out what he has, because there will always be something that might catch your eye. Some people might suggest a slowing and ice crossbow. It is the best. It's the best. Slowing and ice is an ice crossbow. Let's see if... yeah. I do not have a multi-shot ice crossbow. So, you know, cry for me. But if you have a multi-shot ice crossbow, it's going to allow you to freeze, blah, 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 and instantly take out that opponent. But how? Now, how is it that we can end up getting that consistent damage, and how do we actually use our weapons? I'm going to equip my mythical dagger, as I have some special tips for you. Anyone who has this can pick up something, but even if you don't have the mythical dagger, you're still going to get something out of this video when we're talking about how to utilize your daggers. Moving down to the training grounds, I will be loading a sandbox later and really showing you how to get the most of your build. Before we go, however, see, everybody forgets the singular part of their build. Even I forgot it. Now, your build does not end with exos and loadouts, right? The next thing are potions. See, you are a rogue. That is why we are bringing in invisibility potions whenever you can. If you don't have invisibility potions, knock out those souls missions. Keep the souls on the floor. Don't collect them until the end of the round. You're going to end up getting more souls that way, having to run those missions fewer times. Now, the other potions that you're looking at are haste, in order to run through those dungeons and collect loot. Remember, as a rogue, that is your job. Hazard potions will also keep enemies at bay if they start to jump onto your location. And our hazard potions are right now only our ice and our bombs. For some reason, our devs have not given us poison bombs, though I would very much like to see poison bombs join the game. So, these are the most important potions that you can bring, being invisibility and haste, because those are going to help you run through those dungeons, stay out of the fray, and do your job. Get the gold. So, going into the fray down here, we're going to load up a few enemies here, before just to talk about practices, best practices, and then put them into application. So, general tips for daggers. Whenever you throw a dagger, always be ready to return it once it makes contact. When an enemy is, most enemies, maybe not this guy, but most enemies in the dungeon will tilt their head and then take a few steps off to the side. So what you're going to do when you're dealing with skeletal warriors, and those skeletal warriors are the ones with armor on them, and they have better fight tactics, as well as the imps will dodge roll you. So whenever you're dealing with highly mobile enemies, you throw one dagger and then follow it up like a second or so later with the next. So they dodge and then you throw, instead of throwing both daggers at the same time. If you throw both daggers at the same time, now you're having to wait for both of them to reload. So even if I were to miss a shot here, I still have something I can throw, and by the time that dagger comes back, I have something at my hip. So I'm not just, I want to sequence my throws instead of having the bat have everything on both at the same time, leaving me unarmed. Another note about your crossbow is that it is a shield. Not the best shield, but it is one that you can keep your enemies at bay with. If you're in a pickle, use this shield. Okay. The next thing when it comes to dealing with enemies is increasing your damage per second with your crossbow as it pertains to your side weapons. Whenever I'm reloading, I'm throwing a dagger with my reload, firing, and then getting ready so I can go boom, boom, and... Oh, can you hear me? The dungeon went quiet. I hope you can still hear me. So, as far as I've encountered this glitch before, it doesn't affect audio from the players. However, there are glitches that affect audio from the players. So, remember, throw, reload, hip throw while you are... And if you find that you're gripping at your potions too often during this build, one of the things you can do for a rogue is go into your options, other, inventory. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, yeah, it's in controls, my bad. You can take that inventory access and take it off of grip and make it X only, which means instead of grabbing at myself here, I'm in control by using my thumb to grab it. I really hope audio hasn't cut out for us. The next tip, we did talk about increasing damage per second, using this in your offhand so you can throw, reload, and then get other attacks off with those weapons, right? You're getting, whoopsies. Now, when it comes to mythical daggers, let's talk about how to prevent this weapon from getting stuck so that you can get the most out of your attacks. Goodness gracious, I hope my audio is working. So, as I charge this up, when I throw it, I'm going to recall it before I throw it. And then that'll soften enemies up. And then once they've taken a few hits, I can go in with that final strike. And this is going to be paired very well with Might. Again, I think I'm using Impale for my crossbow at this time. When it comes to the crossbow, the general tip is to shoot from the hip. This is okay, but it's not best practices. Put this thing directly in front of your hip. Doing so gives you a much more intuitive sense of where those bolts are going to be going, as the human brain understands what's directly in front of us much better than having to compensate for what's at our side. What this will also do is turning the body is much easier than turning the wrist. However, you can chase down an enemy with those bolts. But I don't recommend having to do the chase down, but it's pretty good if you're dealing with active enemies. But by turning the body with that chase, I'm doing much more micro tweaks than having to do these big swings. Aiming with my arm or aiming with my wrist, I'm aiming with my body. And once again, think about sequencing that pullback with dagger throws. Okay, both those relatively weak throws because I was just kind of demonstrating and talking about it. I really hope our audio is working. Now that we've discussed how our weapons work, what our exosuit looks like, and what our purpose in the dungeon is, I'm going to show you. I'm going to instead load up my poison 8-shot crossbow. And it'll fix my sound here. I hope that hasn't messed us up. However, as we go on, what we can do is go in here, increase my thrown damage, as I'm going to be focusing on daggers more so than our bow. For my offhanded dagger, I'm going to be using my ice and poison elemental damage bow, or dagger, as I'm running this as a rogue. We talked a little bit about gunner. Before we go on, here's an honorable mention about the gunner. And this is something that was taught to me by Ace King VR. Look forward to seeing him in some of my videos. I've run a few dungeons with him. He's a real cool guy. Really good at power leveling. Okay. Honorable mentions with the Juggernaut perk. The Juggernaut perk does pretty well to keep your guard up on your back, as we discussed in my tank video. However, if you're playing a gunner type, what you're going to want to do is either go fire or criticals, and this is so cool. Check this out. You can shoot through your shield, but enemies can't hit you through the shield, so you become this walking ballista, so to speak. Now you're a walking, defense siege tower. The issue is you do have to put your your shield away when doing this. However, this helps you if your people are up on your person and you can't get that space. You're in a small dungeon room. This is a way that you can get some more utility, and I think that works very well for the gunner build. But we're talking a little bit more about this is somewhat a double video, gunner and rogue. That's still in our haste. Now, haste is something the rogue is, it's not negotiable for the rogue, in my opinion. If you're going gunner, the siege tower build might actually appeal to you. This is going to be really hard without audio information. Hopefully this gets fixed when you go into the dungeon. My potions. That's rather unfortunate. Oh, right. Haha. I'm using the X, not my grapple. So remember, that's to prevent you from grabbing your potions instead of the dagger across from your hip. So remember, X is how we access those potions with this build, not with grapple. Heading into the sandbox, please fix the audio. All right, looks like we have audio back. Hopefully that didn't affect recording. I'll have to re-record if that's the case, but I'll do it for you. I'm going to load imps as they have good fight tactics and are quite fast and annoying to deal with. So, remember, your goal is keep your head on a swivel. Keep in mind where people are. I'm going to create space. Now I know where they are. Load up. Now, when you're dealing with enemies that like to dodge away from you, what you're going to do is shoot at their lower mass, not their upper quadrant. That'll help you keep at them while they dodge roll, as well as if they do that strafing step away from you. As aiming at their head or upper quadrants, what that will do is actually prevent you from being able to properly make contact with them. Now, what's cool about the running the rogue build is going stealth mode, right? Yeah, I know I'm cheesing this fight, but remember, the rogue isn't about going into the fight. It is about getting the most gold in the dungeon. One thing I love about the Mythical Dagger is your thrown weapons are far less likely to get, what's going on my throat there? Far less likely to get parried by other thrown weapons. Once again, I'm shooting towards the lower quadrant in order to get that hit off. And this dagger does excellent single target damage. I thought I saw someone over here. Where are you at? Good job. So there we can see how cool a build like this can be. Now with poison, however, it's far less likely for that poison to take effect, which is why I do in fact enjoy fire, ice, or criticals. However, I do not have an ice bow, and I kind of went with theme there, as being able to poison enemies in a dungeon, because you're going to be able to tell when that poison dagger's ready and load that up. But I'm going to recommend that you go criticals or fire or ice if you have it. Alrighty, I hope that's helped. We've covered a lot of tips. Remember, you can, while reloading, you can throw, keeping that DPS up. Right, I always have a dagger ready as I'm firing. And you can go with that somewhat cool, and I keep crossbow in offhand, but if you are going shield, you can kind of cover yourself with that. I hope the audio worked, and I look forward to making more of these class videos. If you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. I have a few ideas, and I'll be posting those soon. All right, remember to disinfect your face mask and wash your face. Dayman out. Peace.